Now, with the conclusion of business in the night session of the National Assembly, all is now set for the ascension of a new order, namely the inauguration of the 10th National Assembly on Tuesday, June the 13th, by President Bola Tinubu. By so doing, the President will be facilitating the constitutional platform relevant for making laws for the governance of Nigeria, at least for the next 4 years. At the moment, what the lawmakers and lawmakers-elect will do with the powers of lawmaking is firmly in the back burner, or because of the process of choosing the leaders of both the Senate and House of Representatives. Joining us now to have a discussion is economics and public affairs analyst, Dr. Boniface Chizea. Thank you very much, Dr. Chizea, for joining us.
Thank you, Reuben, for having me.
Yes, well, very quickly, we have the National Assembly having had their valedictory sessions, and both the House and the Senate engage in some self-congratulatory ritual, chest beating and all of that. But, you know, what do you think? Because they claim that they were very productive. Many Nigerians don't seem to think so. Many Nigerians, in fact, believe that the 9th National Assembly was a rubber stamp assembly.
Well, Reuben, you've said it all. What's am I to say? I mean, you said what Nigerians think. I can't think differently. You know, I think that certainly it was obvious to most Nigerians that the 9th National Assembly was a far cry in terms of discharging its responsibilities when compared with the 8th National Assembly. So I think that, and that's why I have to be very careful. It comes down to, you know, the process of selecting the presiding officers. I think that's very important. If you compare that with the 8th National Assembly, you know, you, of course, we feel the difference. You know, so that was a different ballgame. But this National Assembly, I was in the pocket of the executive. It was very clear, and the executive felt that they could do as they felt, and not much would happen. And that fostered impunity, I think, is not good for our democracy.
Well, but for purposes of balance, there must be certain good things that this same outgoing National Assembly did. They claim, for example, and it's not a claim, it's a fact, that some of the bills that they passed and that the president assented to were, you know, major achievements, taking the country forward. The most celebrated, the most prominent one being the Electoral Act 2022, the alterations to the Constitution in many areas, the bill on prohibition of discrimination against, you know, persons living with disability, and a number of other reforms relating to, you know, the Banking and Other Financial Institutions Act, the CBN Act, and all of that. Want to give them credit for that? I mean, particularly in the financial sector.
Well, if you spent 4 years in National Assembly, you must have some achievements, you know, to your name. I think what's important, as far as the common Nigerian is concerned, is what were the expectations, and to what extent did your performance match up to those expectations. And that's what is very important. I think that, as I said earlier, the expectations of Nigerians for this 9th National Assembly, the performance fell short of expectation. I think that's nobody can controvert that. I think that's where we stand. To make laws, I mean, that's exactly that's what they're expected to do. So if you maybe what to ask is, you know, how many laws did they make, and how many were passed, and how many, in fact, of the laws were signed by the president. I think that probably, and then which of them were critical. Like you said earlier, two stand out: that amendment of the Constitution, and then the Electoral Act. And the Electoral Act itself is smeared in all sorts of controversies, you know. Even as we were doing that, you know, there were all sorts of self-seeking injections of thoughts and so on and so forth, you know. Would you transmit results by electronically and so on and so forth? You know, those became issues. You know, so and at the end of the day, you know, we had a very bad result on our hands.
Well, okay, let's move beyond the 9th Assembly. The 10th Assembly will be inaugurated, and ahead of that event that will take place on June 13, the concern has been about the politics of ethnicity, the party, the ruling party, insisting that it has anointed some people, and party supremacy should override the legislative independence that is enshrined in the Constitution, which gives the lawmakers the powers to choose from among themselves their own leaders.
Well, I think that party supremacy should not override. It shouldn't. I mean, we should at all times, foreground national interest. That's what's important. Any democracy, as we all know, you have three arms. So you have the executive, you have the legislature, you have the judiciary, and they're supposed to be independent. As we did say earlier, this independence, suffered grossly under this dispensation. So I wouldn't have thought, that they lived up to, like I said earlier on, to the expectations of most Nigerians.
Anyway, another issue is about ethnicity and religion. There are persons who are saying, look, for purposes of balance, it wouldn't look nice to have a Muslim ticket at the presidency and then also create a situation whereby it will be possible for another Muslim to emerge as president of the Senate, and also have in the House of Reps a Muslim also as a Speaker of the House of Reps.
Well, I think that that even becomes more so following the utterances by Rufai, Gafai from Kaduna, when he was speaking in Hausa to some Muslim clerics. What has come out is that highlighted the fact that Muslim, they tried to project the fact that the elections were based on competence and ability and so on. But that really, it's a pushing the project, to Islamize Nigeria. So when it's come to that means the Nigerians now have to shine their eyes. So I'm very careful. Nigeria is a complex entity, and there's a need for us. If you look at our constitution, it's included there that we have to reflect national character. It's not for nothing that was included. And so, like you rightly observed, you cannot have Muslim presidency, and then you go back to the Senate, and you also have a Muslim candidate. I think that people are being so selfish. So I think that they should look at this again. And having said that, I think that the party could assist in terms of finding its own positions, but they should not interfere. I think that the party is going beyond by trying to specifically nominate candidates. I think that's not right. I think the legislatures, they're grown-ups, shouting out loud, and they should be able to. They know themselves. They should know those who have the competence, those who have the integrity, and those who have the capability, and those who can deliver on the job. But if you leave it to the executive will be concerned about having somebody who's malleable, somebody that will be compliant, somebody that they can work with. And I don't think that's what we want. We want democracy to move forward, and there should be some effectiveness in terms of the candidates that will be charged, to discharge those responsibilities. Now, if you're in the pocket of the executive, then how are you going to do it? Like Stanford at outgoing house. I think we have to be very careful.
Well, we've had some former senators on some other programs on this channel, and they've said, look, we shouldn't be too optimistic. That he said a man with the biggest, with the deepest pocket that will emerge as a leader in the National Assembly. If that is the case, if people have to buy their own colleagues in violation of the spirit of the Constitution to be able to emerge as leaders, would there be any hope that the 10th Assembly will be any different from the 9th Assembly? Because we hear that money is moving around ahead of the Tuesday event.
Well, I think that it would be unrealistic to expect that there will be any change in the procedure. It's unrealistic. I think that's why we have an issue of corruption. It's endemic in our environment. If you have to pay, to occupy a position, and then once you get into office, the first order of business, the first concern will be to try and recoup. Some have sold their house and so on, to get into such positions. So what sort of integrity do you expect in the operations? So I think that people will go in there and be looking for. It is going to worsen the whole thing. And corruption in Nigeria, we are talking about getting things right, and I have my concerns about the way we are going now. We're trying to get things right. One of the things that worsened the economy here is corruption. Look at what's happening with in the fuel sector. What is being imported, what we have been told is subsidy, and what really we consume in Nigeria. I think those are issues. We need to clean it. I don't know how we're going to do it, but it has to come from building institutions. We have to build institutions that can stand on their own.
Well, Dr. Chizea, you're an economist. You are in the world of finance. Now, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has suspended Godwin Emefiele as the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria. A statement from the office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, which was signed by Willie Bassi, Director of Information, said the suspension was with immediate effect. According to the statement, the President has further directed Mr. Emefiele to transfer his responsibilities to the Deputy Governor Operations Directorate. So in the meantime, Folashonu Adebisi Shonubi, the Deputy Governor, is expected to act as CBN Governor, pending the conclusion of an investigation of Emefiele's office. And we've been told the DSS, the Department of State Services, have reported that he is in their custody.
Well, I think that what is happening to Emefiele was anticipated. You know, it was clear. I mean, whilst he was still in office, whilst the president had appointed him, that he works, you know, and is beholden to, and he works works under his instructions, was still there. He was being hounded, you know. So, but for Lucky Irabo, the chief of defense staff, and so on, we were told severally we were told that his office was taken over by DSS. And now you say to yourself, you know, let's remove the individual. I think I don't know what Nigerians are doing. Remove the person. And would this happen elsewhere? You have somebody who's governor in office and has been hounded whilst he was still in office, and for we don't seem to know for obvious reasons. And one of the reasons that they've given is for sponsoring terrorism. And so you yourself, you know, and this is somebody, what terrorism, what interest does he have to sponsor terrorism? You ask yourself. We all know what's happening. Then Emefiele got himself entangled in the elections and then, you know, stepped on some toes, and then the currency redesign, you know, again, you know, was targeted at some people. You know, some people were not expected to get into governance, and because they've piled up lots of money outside the system, and there was an attempt, you know, to demonetize the funds. And that's really what's happened. That is his offense. No less. Let's call it spade by its name. That's exactly what is happening. So it's been hounded. And you say to yourself, you know, is it the way to go? You know, I mean, I look at Labour. Labour, I said the president should go and ask and investigate INEC. Look at the mess INEC has made of our elections. They should go and be investigated. What is he investigating Central Bank for? What has happened? And they say so many things that they don't seem to understand where it's coming from. You say you're going to have more single-digit inflation rate of exchange. Do they think it's a walk in the park? How do you get it? I've said in the paper I did, one of the things you need to do, you have issues, you have exchange rates, you have dual exchange rates. To the extent that you cannot meet the demands on you from the official window, this demand must seek satisfaction elsewhere. And once it does that, then it has to get it from the parallel market. And once you have a parallel market, you know, then we must have to dual exchange rates. You cannot, if you try to, the only way to go about it is maybe try and float the naira. And it's happened there. You float the naira. Look at what's happening now. You go from the domestic airport to the island. It's not 15,000 naira. Can we stand it? People they have to be very careful because we can have a revolution here in this country.
Well, I mean, you're right. There are persons who have criticized the manner of arrest. In fact, Olisa Agbakoba has said, is it the responsibility of the DSS to oversee monetary policy? Labour Party has raised a question about what the priority of the government should be. Ohaneze Ndigbo has also said this is an attack on Igbos. Do you buy that ethnic argument?
I don't want to go along those lines. I just think that we should do things the way they should be done. If look at what happened before, like I said earlier on. Why should DSS be chasing Emefiele, trying to catch him at the airport, trying to trap him in his office? And then there's a president that appointed him. So if you invited Emefiele and then he didn't attend, then tell the president, convince the president, and the president will tell Emefiele to go and attend the interview, and then you can go ahead, you know. But I don't want to bring in all those base sentiments, you know, whether it's because he's Igbo. I'm just saying what is happening now is not good. We must know we live in a global village, and people are watching us. And we want to open up. I want people to come here and do business with us. And yet we behave in a very primitive way.
Okay, well, I'd like to thank you very much, Dr. Chizea, for joining us on this Sunday Talk Show.